And it brings to mind a very important story from the time of the Buddha. And that was actually the enlightenment of the Buddha. And this is a story which is ancient. It's similar to, in Christianity, the temptation of Jesus. But this was many hundreds of years before. And it's obviously that story in Christianity of temptation of Jesus would almost certainly have come from the story of the Buddha, simply because it was so much earlier written down about how the Buddha became enlightened. And the story actually was that just before the Buddha was going to become enlightened, there was even also the tempting thought, instead of becoming a Buddha, to use the enormous wisdom, compassion, energy, resources, to actually, instead of being an enlightened monk, to be a world leader. Someone who can sort of lead the world as a ruler, as a king. You had the word in those days of a wheel-turning monarch. It was just a word which meant like a universal monarch, someone who wielded power over a large number of people in the earth. And a person who was like a Buddha, you would imagine, would have enough wisdom and compassion to rule wisely. But the Buddha rejected that path, and instead followed the path of being an enlightened one. And there's an important point there, because sometimes that we are, even in our life, tempted to get out there and change things, to rule. And we think that we can rule for the betterment of other people, for the harmony, from the peace and prosperity of our world. But what is interesting, the Buddha rejected that and said, no, it's more important to be an enlightened one. And I can understand why that's true, because there are two ways of dealing with the problems in this world. And the first way is of a king, of a ruler, of a prime minister or a president, is actually to exert control. And there's another Buddhist way, is to understand and to adapt. And very often the way we want to change the world is counterproductive. We want to find some peace, some stability, but too often, because we are too much control freaks, it is the reason why we have so many problems in this world. Because we try and change the world in an unwise way, we create a world which needs change.